Hello, how are you? It's New Age Ja, or Janice, your choice. And welcome back. Welcome if it's your first time. I'd love to see you again. Now, in the midst of so many changes, we become battle worn. But ultimately, I believe our hearts have been censored. Our hearts have been centered. And if anything, quite softened. A lot of us have felt quite weakened in the chest. You're realizing that time is leaving you no choice but to surrender. Surrender to what? Surrender to love. Choosing love. And love doesn't mean a lack of boundary. It actually means quite the opposite. Challenges and obstacles presented within a partnership and or a relational sphere are great markers in the show of one's persistence to get to know you. Effort is very welcomed in the course of discourse. Our hearts are awakening. There's a palpable pull and obvious desolation within our atmospheric pool. It seems like one half of the world is awakening and the other half is going into flames. Apparently, from time to time, we get a little bit of a smoke signal. Smoke signal. Smoke signal. The fires are running and they're burning through, ravishing and conquering all that's in its path. The fire burns. Trailblazing, marking the path, clearing the lands, fertilizing, charring, opening, clearing, digging. The lands must be restored, and Gaia at this time is extremely receptive. I must say, she's so receptive to us at this time. She so desperately and so willingly is open to the humanic, if that's a word, call. Humanic, totally. Fear is the first step to associating a heart awakening. Fear is not necessarily meant to just strip you of your power. Because your power isn't truly of the solar plexus, although it is a stabilizing force. And if clear and unstoppable vessel is apparent. But the heart chakra is awakening. And not only awakening to the self, but an awakening onto others. It's a contagion. Unlike the solar plexus, which is usually individualistically focused. The love of the heart center is a contagion. And love is the greatest path to discipline and action. But the very act of love is the very deciphering force that reveals the true characteristics or the true characters at play, at force. The split down the middle. Let's take a look at some cards. Why not? So I still have Ebony's, this Awakened Soul Oracle here. Is this appropriate energy? Maybe, maybe not. Challenges are my stupor. The enactment of opposition is one of integration. I no longer see you apart from myself, or a part of myself. But the total acquisition and inquisition of total control upon one's boundary is totally exercised. I accept the oppositional pressure. You can stay right where you are. You are welcomed. I accept you. Hi. You are there and I am here. Exceptional, exceptional behavior. I love it. One must know that no one is in control of someone else. The only way or the only time that someone is exempt of such destruction is in when reclaiming one's own power and force that was originally derived and harvested by the self. Energy, light, source energy that was originally initiated, derived, and harvested completely 100% by personal force, is the only time when your energy is exempt to taking, to snatching. You cannot take what does not belong to you. And trust me, I do not belong to you. So you say. I am a marker upon my own bounds. Any given restraint is an act of mercy. But any potential threat only exists inside of your head. For your threatened valve does not affect me. Pump it a little higher and more, the transmutation occurs. Amplifying a light-hearted energy with an amplified heart chakra and loving force. Spiritual recognition is one of iniquity, due to the passion and force invested. That's also the equilibrium of the playing force. Playing grounds, field, round. It's career day. Family. We have the elephant and family. The elephant. We are creating family, and we are creating nurturing bonds, and we are creating mutual support. But there's still the need or the aspect of sovereignty within a familial unit. This is where I can love you unconditionally. But I still have the honor, the place, the power, and the energy to exert my sovereignty, to exert my boundaries, to exert where my line ends and begins. Impeding on someone else's lines and force makes it even playing grounds and fields now. You can't mark an imposition onto someone and not expect an appeal. If you're out of pocket, if you're out of space, with an act and attitude of impeding on someone else's going-ons, you're always going to be in the losing position. Your negative destruction, your negative intention, ultimately destroys your lineages, your lineage, your complete get away with attacks for so long. Don't be surprised when the tables turn. This is all having to do with claiming and asserting your sovereignty, while once again cultivating meaningful, supportive relationships. Opening up the heart chakra that despite the fear that comes along with it. The fear was curated to clam your heart center because of the contagion of the love that may emit. But first, the poisonous flow is evident, imminent, and how one processes that is of one's very own nature. Oh, geez, thank you, Janice. Thank you for being so, like, thank you for just, like, delivering it, like, so straightforward and blunt like that. Like, geez, like, why you gotta say it like that? Why you gotta bring that up? Why do we have to talk about that? Why do we have to go there? Well, because it's the root of the issue that we're meant to tackle. If you see yourself, welcome it. If you despise yourself, claim it as your own. We have Gaia and we have Shapeshifter. Is it focusing? I'm not sure. Okay. So there's an elephant in the room. There's two elephants, a big ass elephant, and the elephant gave birth to another elephant, and so now the elephant is even bigger than it needs to be. And the gods are present. The spiritual guides are present. The ancestors are present. There are large benevolent beings in our structure that are in participation of the anarchy and change. This is a metamorphosis. This is a changing of heart, a fluttering of fruition. We must be able to take complete responsibility for our actions at hand, but also recognize that our deeds, good or not so good, are still being accounted for in the external, eternal realm. This is why they say that you should be careful about who you are confronting in the spiritual realm. You don't know what their rank is. You don't know how immersive and expansive one's spirit is. You might show up and see a 10-time giant. You weren't expecting that. Charging at my ankles. This is the perspective. I thought I was sure to bring something with me, because we know how this goes. Anyways, this is the perspective. Feeling maybe intimidated or smaller because something bigger is in your environment and you don't know how to claim that. So instead, you're like following every like bit and bob, every ball thrown, everything told. You're like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I feel so small. Like, I'm just going to listen and be overshadowed. When the whole idea is to detach and to claim your own sovereignty so that you can grow in size. So that you can grow in size. So that you can grow in size. And be supported in the process. Self-love, heart center, love, nurturing, Gaia, the opportunity to commit. The opportunity to commit the opportunity to communicate one's existential existence and what the plans are moving forward. That would be an ultimate nurturance to the collective at hand, beneficially affecting yourself and all of those who are naturally exposed to your energy field. There's no shortcuts in this game. And it's not, especially when it comes to spiritual ascension, there's no shortcuts. You can't fool anybody with the extensive amount of crystals and whatever amount of tarot decks. You're not fooling. You might fool people who don't know anything about any of this, but you're not fooling the gods. You're not fooling God. In the spiritual realms, everyone is exposed. And we have to get comfortable with being exposed, because authenticity is the only route. Shapeshifter. Shapeshifting is a gift, but it's also a curse. Shapeshifting to consistently and constantly hide. I mean, change your environment, change your whatever the heck that you're doing. Your gift and power can be your strength or your inhibitor. So you choose in which shape you choose to shift into. And what that means ultimately for your true sovereignty. So that you can begin to make your own decisions, so that you can begin to stand in your own power, so that you can begin to influence your nature, your own very nature. And until then, if you need to look up to beings, other beings, until you gain greater understanding of such, remember the bounds and chains that might come along with it. There's an influence. Cutting yourself off from your influence ultimately, then to rejoin as a family is great. But there's a way of going about things, you know? Common courtesy and spiritual etiquette is going to be of the forefront. Immersing yourself into the 5D. That means that, again, our hearts and our souls will be born. They will be bored. They will be shown. They will be exposed. You can't pretend, hide, and shift and shapeshift in the spiritual realm. You can until the collective continues to awaken. And when the collective awakens, you'll realize where everybody stands. Because there's such things as generational karmas. There's such things as unhealed traumas. There's such which is, it's all a matter of how you perceive it. And perceiving with an open heart, despite the unpleasant feelings that come along with it, is the key to success, while recognizing and respecting your spiritual comrades. We have you and your loved ones are safe. So this is that family energy that we're cultivating, this heart center energy that we're cultivating, this nasty love that we need, but a fiery climax approach. It's Aries. It's like we have to be direct. We have to be straightforward. And sometimes we have to be, we We have to take forward action in order to assert a primary boundary, a primary frame, in order to assert the I am, as Aries is the I am, needing to be able to stand in your personal power without stripping others of it. Because when you stand in your sovereignty, your energy only amplifies. It only gets stronger. That's the beautiful part. Then we have adjustments are required, correct, which is what we're working on right now, right? And then take time to breathe out, disseminating moon. It's like we might be going through a high moment of intensity where change and confrontation has taken place. But ultimately, family units do have their differences and emotionally have to work out some clashes. And they're not always pretty, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we're family. We're soul family, you know? And if there's equal effort to make a joint equal effort, then with maturity and an open heart, things can continue to grow. But just remember that when things go adverse or boundaries are overstepped, that there's a very equal opportunity and right to step into the Mars energy, to step into the Aries energy and say, this is who I am. I'm going to take all these out. Nice. So, 7th house of partnerships. So this is a very relational, friendship, familial, other person, one-on-one kind of thing. This could be happening in your friend group or your community at hand. This is definitely a lot of communication, messages, back and forth, connecting with a partner over social media network, joining a group effort, merging into a community, finding partnership within this community. Part of fortune. Fortune increases and destiny is activated. So these types of hard conversations that are happening within on a friendship sphere, on a soul level, is ultimately for the increase in growth and the heart awakening of all involved, if done with a proper and balanced solar plexus and ego. Understanding that this isn't a matter of the ego. I don't need to feel larger or mightier than thou. But I do feel that it's necessary for me to assert myself as who I am at any given time if I feel that that is necessary. That is my act of asserting a boundary. Janice starts and begins here. Please, if you pass this, then just know that you will be interacting with a more bolder side of me. And everyone has that equal right. You have that right to establish yourself in these ways without fear, because you're doing it for love of yourself and you're doing it for love of the other. Because if you allow others to cross your boundary, you're hurting yourself, and that's hurting the other person because they're causing you harm knowingly or unknowingly, and that's detrimental to them. So asserting boundaries within your partnerships, relationships, one-on-one, family members, your soul group, is very, very, very healthy and increases your fortune. and aligns you to your destiny. Because when you claim yourself as who you are, you activate your coding. You're able to come into proper alignment, and your coding in DNA or whatever on a soul esoteric reference or scale recognizes the self claiming itself and coming in, and it turns on. It's like your Merkaba awakens when your soul is able to realize itself and gives the soul a proper barrier or extension where it feels safe in its container. And then everything changes and metamorphosis. And this is the midst of the changes that we're going through. And these are some of the frictions and challenges that we will be experiencing. It's a Venus year, it's a 6th year, but Venus is, the planet of love and war. And she's all about diplomacy, she wants to have these relational, opportunities with others. She really wants the intimacy, the one-on-ones. And so sometimes that requires warring it out a little bit in order to achieve that mutual bond and union and communion. So, yes, I know that this was a little rough. I'm sorry if I've ruffled your feathers in any way. My intention is not to ruffle you, but to enlighten and empower you. And there's only one way to do that. That is through example, most of the times. So here's to continuing our heart-centered awakening. And here's to long-lasting support of one another and equal understanding of each other's changes and being okay with the supported change. So until next time, God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.